You feel fine. Then suddenly you realize you've been chasing a feeling for a while. It starts as curiosity, or just one more spin, but gambling quietly dulls your emotional signals before you notice. Today, we'll uncover the mechanism that turns living feelings into numb momentum. The strangest part is how calmly your body keeps moving while your mind drifts. Anticipation and arousal rise, yet the deeper emotional alarm gets muted. That happens because repeated uncertainty recruits a narrower brain loop. You stop experiencing the whole moment and begin reacting to cues. You trade awareness for speed, and that's the beginning of emotional numbness. Right before the bet, your mind doesn't just predict outcomes. It manufactures a specific emotional future, bright and urgent. That almost there state creates dopamine-like anticipation without satisfaction. So the pre-bet ritual becomes more vivid than the outcome itself. Then the next bet feels less like a choice and more like completion. The near win, or almost, is a psychological trap built into randomness. Your brain treats closeness like evidence, even when probabilities don't change. That mismatch fuels tension because the mind tries to explain a signal. In real play, people keep responding after losses that felt close enough. You don't win, but the brain behaves like you should have. After a loss, the mind often demands immediate correction. This is the desire to reverse discomfort, not to chase profit. Behavioral research shows that losses weigh heavier, so they hijack attention. Then the next decision becomes an emotional repair attempt. The loss then recovery pattern trains you into reflex, not reflection. Desire to gamble doesn't always look like excitement. Often it looks like expectation, like the next outcome must deliver relief. Anticipation is rewarding precisely because it stays unresolved. That unresolved loop keeps dopaminergic systems engaged, even without enjoyment. Over time, relief is confused with fun, and the numbness deepens. Illusion of control grows quietly when randomness behaves in familiar ways. You remember streaks, interpret patterns, and attribute outcomes to your actions. This cognitive bias reduces anxiety by making chaos feel controllable. So you feel calmer even while taking bigger emotional risks. Control is experienced, but reality is still random underneath. Probability gets distorted, especially when you're mid-session. Random variance begins to look like meaning, and meaning begins to feel personal. People overestimate the odds after a loss or after a do moment. In daily life, the same bias shows up as superstition and pattern thinking. This is how the mind justifies persistence while losing grasp of chances. Random, intermittent reinforcement is one of the strongest learning engines humans know. Not every pull delivers, and that unpredictability makes behavior harder to extinguish. Psychologically, partial rewards strengthen the urge to keep checking for the next hit. So even calm pauses feel like friction against an unfinished reward cycle. When reinforcement is sporadic, numbness becomes a background condition. Compulsiveness often hides inside the way you feel wired but detached. You might be tense, yet strangely disconnected from the stakes. That tension can function like fuel, keeping you engaged while emotions flatten. Then you start focusing on narrow targets. The next bet, the next outcome, the next justification. This is how the session stretches, while real life shrinks. After the session, shame can arrive like a delayed crash. But during play, the mind protects itself with internal explanations. You minimize impact, blame timing, or redefine what you were trying to do. That rationalization allows repetition without facing the emotional cost. So guilt comes later, after the numb mechanism has already done its work. During a long streak, you may lose your normal sense of time and meaning. Real-world markers fade, and attention narrows to flashing cues and quick computations. That is dissociation by another name. The mind steps back from full experience. People describe it as not really thinking, just going, or watching myself. When you can't feel clearly, you also can't choose clearly. The line between pleasure and compulsion is not in how intense it feels. It's in whether you can stop when the feeling is satisfied. Compulsive gambling keeps the brain seeking resolution, not enjoyment. So the emotion becomes a lever, and your choice becomes the trigger's path. That's the moment numbness stops being a side effect and becomes the strategy. If any of this sounds familiar, pause and look closely at the sequence. Emotion doesn't disappear. It gets rerouted into anticipation, tension, and justification. The most dangerous mechanisms work quietly, while your awareness stays slightly behind. If you want more psychological breakdowns like this, subscribe now.